Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here on BNC Live. I'm Brittany Jones, in for Tashani Whitlow. So let's get you caught up on news happening across the country today. Antony Blinken, in the hot seat. The U.S. Secretary of State will face fierce questioning later today from lawmakers on the House Foreign Affairs Committee on the country's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. And California's Governor Gavin Newsom is facing one of the biggest tests of his political career ahead of Tuesday's recall vote. We'll discuss the implications of this selection. Plus, we're tracking Tropical Storm Nicholas as it gains strength, bringing the danger of heavy rain and life-threatening storm surge. Week after week, more kids are getting COVID-19, but leading health experts say there could be a light at the end of the tunnel. BNC's Shannon Lanier has the latest on the push to get a coronavirus vaccine authorized for kids 5 to 11.
We're seeing infections throughout every age group.
You don't want to go through this. You don't.
Infants and very young.
Every day counts. Shannon Lanier, BNC.
They have to do what they have to do to protect our babies. Well, stay with us. Much more BNC Live on the other side of this break. Happening now, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are holding a remembrance ceremony paying tribute to the victims of the September 11th attack. Let's listen in.
The country was robbed of its security and bereft of thousands of its citizens. We pray your peace over us as we wrestle with the aftermath of that defining day in our nation's history, the sacrifice of too many of our sons and daughters who gave their lives to defend the freedom assaulted on that serene September day. The grief of countless families.
Even higher than the piles of rubble. And for 20 years, thousands of our bravest deployed to lands from which this evil was launched to make our refrain, never again, into reality. The attacks of September the 11th have stolen the lives of about 3,000 of our people. For thousands of families and friends, this anniversary will forever be deeply, terribly personal. And over 2 decades of fighting back against terrorist killers, thousands more newly minted Gold Star families have been dealt their own life-changing sorrows because of this day. Know that your country still stands with you. Your fellow citizens will share your grief. Not one American sacrifice has been in vain. We renewed our commitment that we will never be broken. We ensured our unity and resolve runs even deeper than our sadness.
You've been listening to a congressional remembrance ceremony for the victims in the 9/11 attacks. It has been a very somber weekend 20 years later, and people are still trying to get past this. You know, so many people lost their family members, 2,996 people. So we remember those lives and those who fought to save countless lives as well. And let's get you caught up on some other news today. Making headlines, Capitol Police are preparing for potential violence at a rally this weekend and are being briefed on security plans. So the September rally is to defend and demand justice for hundreds of people who were charged in connection to the January 6th riot. The Capitol Police Chief will also brief congressional leaders today. We've learned protective fencing will be installed at the Capitol. Meanwhile, U.S. Capitol Police have recommended disciplinary action in 6 cases against officers following an internal investigation into the January 6th attack. The violations include 3 cases for conduct unbecoming of an officer, 1 for failure to comply with directives, 1 for improper remarks, and 1 for improper dissemination of information. It's unclear if the 6 recommendations involve 6 different officers. The widow of Rayshard Brooks is suing the city of Atlanta and police officers for his death. Police were called to a Wendy's drive-thru last June to investigate claims that Brooks was asleep in his car. When Brooks failed a breathalyzer test, officers tried to arrest Brooks. After a struggle with police, Brooks ran away and an officer fired at Brooks 3 times. He was shot and died from his injuries. The lawsuit claims officers didn't provide the necessary medical attention that Brooks needed. It also says that the city of Atlanta failed to make sure officers follow their training and the officers aren't being supervised. People who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 are 11 times more likely to die from COVID-19. That's according to new research from the CDC. The unvaccinated are also 10 times more likely to be hospitalized than people who've gotten the shots. Researchers looked at 600,000 cases from April into July, and more than 75 million Americans eligible to be vaccinated haven't gotten the shot. Florida is the latest state facing a civil rights investigation from the Department of Education over its ban on mask mandates in schools. Federal officials say they are concerned that allowing parents to decide whether or not their kids wear masks could violate the rights of kids at high risk of illness from COVID-19. The Department of Education argues all children have the legal right to safely return to in-person education. Federal civil rights investigations are happening in 5 states: Iowa, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Utah. Southwest Airlines isn't planning to start serving alcohol on flights until at least January. A memo sent to flight attendants says the timeline was linked to the extension of the federal mask mandate for planes and airports to January 18th. Southwest was the first major airline in the U.S. to stop in-flight service at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. The goal was to cut down on interactions between passengers and attendants. North Korea says it has successfully test-fired a new type of long-range cruise missile. The missiles reportedly hit targets more than 900 miles away. North Korea says the new weapon system has been in development for 2 years. The Biden administration and South Korea have yet to formally respond to the weekend long-range missile test. Happening today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins testimony about ending the 20-year war in Afghanistan. Blinken will face tough questioning from lawmakers about the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The last soldier left the country August 31st, leaving hundreds of Americans and Afghan refugees behind. The Secretary of State will testify over the next 2 days. Meanwhile, the Taliban says women can go to school in Afghanistan. Classrooms will be separated by gender and the Islamic dress will be required. The Taliban has suggested they have changed their attitudes about women. However, women have been banned from sports, and Taliban has used violence against women who are protesting for equal rights. No women were given cabinet positions in the Taliban's new government. And just ahead on BNC Live, Tropical Storm Nicholas, the 14th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, is bearing down on the Texas coast. BNC's meteorologist Brittany Lockley joins us with the forecast next. Welcome back. Take a look at this. We are getting a live look right now at Galveston, Texas, where Tropical Storm Nicholas is on its way, inching closer, expected to dump a lot of rain. You can see it's already looking like some showers there, right there on your screen. Millions of people now along the Texas coast are under a tropical storm warning. As Tropical Storm Nicholas gains strength in warm waters in the Gulf, significant rainfall is expected. And on top of that, life-threatening storm surge and flash floods. Meteorologist Brittany Lockley is with me now. And Brittany, when could we, see the storm make landfall? At this point, we said it is approaching. You and I have been talking about this all weekend.
Yes, we've been talking about it all weekend.
Welcome back to BNC Live. A hospital in upstate New York will put a pause on delivering babies. On Friday, Lewis County General Hospital announced they will pause maternity services in less than 2 weeks. This comes after several workers quit rather than getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo mandated all healthcare workers to get vaccinated, requiring the first dose by September 27th. And according to Lewis County Health System CEO, other departments in the hospital are at risk as well. And joining me now is the Assistant Vice President for Population Health and Clinical Integration, Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, Dr. Patel.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, we're happy to have you here with us. We know obviously this is a big deal for people. The White House seems to be facing an uphill battle when it comes to getting more Americans vaccinated. When you hear stories about maternity wards having to pause due to healthcare workers not wanting to get the shot, what concerns does that raise for you as a medical expert?
It's very concerning. There's a disconnect in our society right now. on Saturdays and Sundays, 100,000 people are packing into football stadiums, while just down the road, clinicians, nurses, EMTs, firefighters are pouring their hearts out, taking care of sick and dying folks. And so this is a team effort. I think the Biden administration has laid out a 6-point plan that's very well thought out. Now we need to just get on board and align to that vision and make it happen.
Yeah. Definitely. So at least a dozen states have already mandated vaccinations or regular testing for healthcare workers. How will these mandates impact hospitals that are already overwhelmed, as you mentioned earlier?
It's a slippery slope. There's going to be folks who don't want to take the vaccine, and you suspect those are going to quit the healthcare industry, and that's tragic. We need hands on deck right now. But I do think a lot of people are going to find it a situation where they're going to feel more comfortable taking care of COVID patients. And so I think it's a good thing. I also saw that the Biden administration mandated vaccines for companies with 100 employees or greater. I think that's the right step. You're going to start to see companies taking their own decisions around vaccine mandates in the coming weeks and coming months.
And Doc, do you think that patients get concerned about when they show up to the hospital and if they have one of the healthcare workers basically providing them care who isn't vaccinated? Do you think that also concerns patients?
Absolutely. We want patients to feel comfortable, safe, and to have trust in the healthcare environment. And, you know, not only COVID patients coming to the hospital right now, but patients who have stroke or need cancer care or have heart problems, diabetes, those patients should also feel comfortable coming through the physician's office or the hospital to get their routine care as needed. And so this is way more about everyone and not just about COVID patients.
Mm-hmm. And as a healthcare professional, what is your greatest fear as we head into the fall season, which is also the start of flu season?
Fatigue. I think all around, clinicians, frontline workers, they're getting tired, they're getting frustrated, and then kids are getting more lax with their masking policies, and then people who are making policies are getting lax because they're getting tired and hearing from their constituents that they don't want to have masks anymore. They don't want to have vaccine mandates. They want to go back to doing what it is that they were doing 20 months ago, and we're just not in that space yet.
Looks like we lost Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And leading into the fall months, I mean, you're looking at what you said, that the kids not wanting to wear their masks, people becoming more relaxed. Do you think that in turn means that we'll end up having more deaths by the end of the year?
Very well could be. We have only 62% of the United States population with their first shot, 57, 58% with both shots. If that doesn't get to 80%, regardless of what we do, we're going to start to see more deaths in the coming months.
And last week, the Biden administration unveiled a new COVID response plan. Do you think enough is actually being done, or is it too little, too late?
I think it's a great start. I think the Biden administration is looking for partnership from the public sector, from the healthcare sector, from everybody to do their part. And I think this is an outline, it's a guidance of how to do things. It's very well done. The science is sound. It's really on large employers, large companies to take that guidance and implement it downstream.
All right, Dr. Patel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We know COVID is something that right now just feels like it's not going away. And thanks for sticking with us for that, but we'll be right back with much more news after this break. Welcome back. We all know that working from home has become the new norm for millions of Americans, and experts say employers may face an uphill battle getting their workers to return back to the office. I know it's hard, folks. So in fact, some companies are getting really creative and going big to bring people back. BNC's Walter Morris shows us how.
I think for me, it's just, it will be fine. It's great.
Walter Morris for BNC.
Here to talk more about this, about the problems businesses are having getting workers back, is Donna Cutting with the Red Carpet Learning System. Donna, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And Donna, we heard a number of things just mentioned in the story of why people don't want to go back and what they need in order to go back. So first, President Biden has released new vaccine mandates for businesses. We want you to listen in on this soundbite and get your reaction to this.
If you want to work with the federal government and do business with us, get vaccinated.
So Donna, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm on the vaccination bandwagon. So I think for the safety of everyone, that's a good call in terms of from President Biden. But you know, I know it's a hot topic that different people have different opinions on.
And from the employee standpoint, folks, worried about being next to someone who's unvaccinated or vice versa. What's your reaction to that part of it? Because that's mainly what the president has been saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And I think that's part of why people are wanting to work from home. The other thing that I think is going on is that we're having a collective values readjustment. I've heard it called the Great Reassessment that may be leading to that Great Resignation. And what I really think needs to happen is that employers have to start listening to what employees want. Different people want different things, and we're going to have to do a great reassessment of the workplace experience.
For sure. And, Donna, a lot of people aren't wanting to return to the office out of fear of getting COVID-19, as we just talked about. Do you think that this vaccine mandate requirement could help them feel more comfortable about it once they do return?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly we're still in a state of influx. We still don't quite know what's happening with the vaccine, with COVID-19. And so I think that is certainly part of why people want to stay home, but it's not the whole reason.
Yeah. And a jobs report last week says the number of available jobs still outweigh the number of applicants. Why don't you think people want to go back to work?
Again, we are collectively reevaluating our lives. And I think that one of the best things employers can do, I see a lot of employers throwing perks and paychecks out there to prospective employees, but really this is a strong signal to employers that that people have not been happy. They have felt stressed out. They felt overworked. They felt underpaid and underappreciated. And so one of the best things employers can do right now is to start reevaluating what their day-to-day employee experience is going to look like.
So would you say the pandemic breeded a whole new ground of entrepreneurs since they're not deciding to go back to their regular jobs?
Yeah, in some cases, yes. That's also generationally been true, that we've seen even pre-pandemic, we've seen a lot of younger people who are more entrepreneurial minded. But I also think it's people who want to have a voice, that want to be listened to, that want to be feel like they have a purpose at work and feel like they have choices, and that's really what's going on right now. And the best thing employers can do is to listen to that, take heed, and start thinking about what the new version of the employee experience is going to be.
Yeah. And what do you say to managers and other leaders who are frustrated about having to work with employees who are remote right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand the frustration, and at the same time, this conversation isn't going away because yes, everybody or many people now found that they can work better, that they also have more flexibility, that it integrates their home life and work life better. And we have to remember that employees are not human capital, they're human beings. And so I think people are looking for ways to integrate their workplace, their work life, and their home life in a way that feels more balanced to them. And for some, that means working from home.
Yeah. Less traffic and a little bit more time to work out. Donna, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Of course. And President Biden is heading to California today, bringing the power of the presidency to California's recall election. He'll be there to lend support to Governor Gavin Newsom just a few days after Vice President Kamala Harris also hit the campaign trail side by side with Newsom. Well, in a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1, Newsom is seen as having the upper hand in his bid to fend off the GOP-fueled recall. But there are huge implications if he's ousted from office. Republican talk show host Larry Elder is the leading Republican replacement. And joining us now is Pastor K.W. Tullis. He is the president of the Baptist Ministers Conference of Los Angeles and Southern California and senior pastor of the historical Weller Street Missionary Baptist Church. Good afternoon, Pastor.
Good afternoon. So glad to be with you today.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to you about this too. It's a big story coming up. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with this. So, you know, we see the president and vice president coming in support of Newsom. What are the potential implications of this race?
Well, I mean, we've seen it all around the world. I mean, and just this past November, America went to the polls in record numbers to come against the policies of Donald Trump, the GOP policies. And now we see a rebirth here in California of them trying to hijack an election to recall a governor who has been standing at the forefront of people here in California, a person that has been visible and accessible, has been providing some great leadership during this pandemic. And all of this is going on, and they want to recall this governor.
Were you shocked at all when they decided they wanted to do that?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we know that, you know, they're desperate and they're going to use whatever measures that they can to make sure they set this trend all across the country. They're starting with here, California, a very progressive state, a state that has been at the forefront of so many of our pivotal issues, from worker rights to minimum wage to civil rights of people, protecting people voting rights. So, no, I'm not shocked that they, you know, selected California, but I hope they'll be shocked come September 14th.
And Pastor, you actually met with the governor on Saturday to rally churchgoers. Talk about how the result of this race could actually impact Black Californians.
Well, you know, we know that it's very pivotal that we get out the vote, and we have spearheaded what we call the Souls to the Poll here in California. And over the last few days, the governor has met with many of our top religious leaders from throughout California. We have encouraged our members. On Saturday, we had a phone call with over 80 pastors from across California, and we have encouraged them to make sure they remind their members that September 14th is election day, and we need them to get out to the poll, and hopefully they're voting no on this recall. It's very pivotal that we get individuals out to vote because, again, everything is at stake. Can you imagine a state with the front runner of a Larry Elder's ideology? No, we can't. And so I think pastors have responded overwhelmingly through our messaging, and we're looking forward to, again, taking it out, going beyond the walls to the church and letting folks know that election day is September 14th, and we're voting no on this recall.
And the big question mainly Black people have when it's time to, you know, go to the polls, they always want to know, what are you going to do for me? So what are some of the issues that concern Black Californians, and how did the governor actually address those issues?
Well, we see that he has been actually addressing many of our issues, from criminal justice reform to minimum wages here in California. I mean, California is progressive. We're probably the most progressive state in this world. And at the end of the day, we have a governor, we have a legislature that has been at the forefront of really making sure African-American voices are heard. And we're looking forward to, again, first of all, voting no on this recall, getting out to election, and then continuing to make sure this governor is moving in the right direction, keeping our children safe in school, making sure that this homeless situation is being addressed. So there's so much that we have in store, and we can do it better with Gavin Newsom than with Larry Elders.
Yeah, and Republican Larry Elder, like you just mentioned, he is the front runner for Republicans. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it shows just how buffoonery people think we are here in California. I mean, you know, here it is, a man that has not been nowhere near never been in politics in his life. What can he possibly do for our state? Again, we have led in so many of the issues that our communities are facing, and we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward. So a no vote on the recall is a no vote against Larry Eldridge.
Well, we know everybody's eyes will be on California, and we will be watching those polls and bringing our viewers the updates. Pastor, thank you so much for your time today. And stay with us. We'll see you back here in about 3 minutes.
Mortals.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because like you watch them growing up and then watch them kind of get to grow up on their own to become these people, to become those greats that, you know, so many people, these young kids are looking up to now, and to be able to see them in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Speaking of which, of course, you have, again, Maya Shaka. So another person who will live on forever in history as the first, hopefully the first of many more to come.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, we've discussed this on the show, of course.
Yeah.
You have young little girls who are watching and can understand that they can aspire to be players, officials, whatever they want to be, coaches.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky really is the limit. And it's just like whenever you get to see this thing on play, and I mean, I know these things happen every year, but it's just like every year showing you another milestone of what we can reach if we continue to work hard and push forward.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, thank you. We'll see you next hour, maybe. All right, that's it for this hour of BNC Live, but we'll see you back here in about 3 minutes. We have more top stories coming your way, the latest of the pandemic, so we'll see you soon.